What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Monday. What's up, Nettie and Janisa, Marie and Jose? Jose. What's up, Joanne? Good to see some familiar faces on here. We got Christine Martin on here today. Bobby, Mr. Consistent. All right. We are back with some 0 to 1 million. Anybody who has been off for a couple weeks, hasn't been on this meeting, we're still not at $1 million yet. So you didn't miss the million mark yet. But maybe we're getting closer. Let's chat about it. All right, so this is our seventh week. One, two, three, four, five, six, seventh week. Our seventh week in business. Let's see how we did. Let's see how we did. All right, open my screen up here. This is the visual sheet. Let me make this a little bigger. Okay. So we're going over the vision sheet. The reason why we use the vision sheet every single week is because it is the snapshot, is the weekly snapshot of what is going on in the business. What are the problems? What are the positive things? Where are we strong at? Where are we weak at? Where do we need to focus our attention at as business owners so we can grow this thing to $1 million business? And as much as we actually can put we can actually define $1 million business very simply. Like, you make $1 million, or another way we could do it is like once you've hit $83,000 in a single month, then you're on $1 million run rate. We can define those things. Truthfully, $1 million is a synonym for just your goal. Like, what does your dream business look like? It might not be $83,000. It might be bigger. It might be 100,000 or 150,000. Maybe it's smaller. Maybe it's 60,000. Maybe it's 50,000. But it's funny. I was on a call with Jessica and Lucas today, and their business this month is projected to do $55,000, 53,000. And when they started in this community a year ago, they were doing $13,000. And they told me this a couple times. They're like, if you would have told us that we could do $50,000, like that would be it. Like we'd be done. Like we'd be good. We'd be set for life. And then when you actually start getting closer and closer to these goals, you start getting to where these things that seem really far off, they become just a matter of time rather than if they ever happen. You start to realize that maybe you should have set bigger goals. And so $1 million business for you might actually be $1 million. But then when you actually get closer to $1 million, you realize that maybe I want to do 1.5 million. Maybe I want to do 2 million. Maybe I want to do $10 million. Right? But anyway, the idea of $1 million business is simply just a goal, just a target to hit. So with that being said, let's talk about how we're going to close in on an actual $1 million business. That is actually our goal for this business. And so this is our seventh week in business. So last week, our job ticket hours were 58. The week before that, they were 64. The week before that, they were 58, 74, 34. Our goal is 103. So the first goal before we get to $1 million is $20,000 a month. That's when we will have considered this to be a stabilized business, around $20,000 a month, which includes 5 cleaners. And our cleaners are working 20 hours a week. Okay, that's what we considered our first milestone. And so that's what we're shooting for. So we're shooting for 103 job ticket hours, 20 average hour cleaner hours, and 5 cleaners. Okay, so you can see we're at 4 cleaners, we're at 14, and we're at 58. So we're close to cleaners. We're a little shy on average number of cleaners, and we're about halfway there on job ticket hours. Our client side now. So our client side for the month of April, we hit $10,000. So that's pretty cool. We're halfway to 20,000, which is our first milestone. Last week's revenue was $4,200. That's our biggest week by far. As you guys can see here, the week before that was the biggest week, which was 3,000, and the week before that was 2,800. The week before that was 2,900, and then 1,200. So we've been consistently growing. I doubt we'll beat that number this week. Our schedule is much lighter this week. However, it was cool to see that we had a $4,000 week, which is in alignment with 20,000. Like we just did that 4 more times, we hit $20,000. So it's possible. You're saying it's possible. Yes, it's possible. Revenue per clean, so we did 21 cleans, which is a PR as well, and revenue per clean was $200. So um, those are the goals versus what we did. So we did the amount of total weekly cleans, our just revenue per clean was down. So that's the only reason that we didn't hit our actual revenue goal, which was 4,200, or which was actually 4,600. And yeah, if we were able to do that 4 weeks in a row, then we would hit $20,000. So pretty neat. We are closing in. All right. So current monthly revenue, as you guys can see, $10,000 in ZenMade, $9,500 in QuickBooks. We're collecting some monies. That's good to see. Last week's revenue, $4,200 in ZenMade, $4,100 in QuickBooks. Yeah, so this is actually really cool. So how we broke this down, initial clean revenue, we had $2,000, $2,600 was an initial clean, and then $1,900 was reoccurring or reoccurring. It's pretty cool. So the fact that this business is only 7 months old, we already have that much reoccurring. Honestly, most of it is reoccurring. So I think this is often overlooked, maybe undervalued in comparison to the desire to have a weekly or biweekly or every 4 week client. But the reoccurring clients, specifically Airbnbs, like sometimes those cleans are twice a week, sometimes and they're at least once a week. And so while they can be somewhat of a cluck to the schedule, when you're first trying to grow something, they're great ways to boost your revenue. Okay. So that number's nice to see. And then outstanding invoices. Yeah, we have one outstanding invoice for $250. So all right, let's talk about marketing. So marketing, last week we had the most we've ever spent on Google services. Like I've never seen this number so big before, but yeah, we had 458 Google local service leads, or excuse me, dollars. And then from there, we had only nine leads. So that's not a very good cost per lead, actually, now I think about it. Let's do some math. 458 divided by 9, $50 a lead. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Facebook ad spend, we spent $489 and got 44 leads. What would you guys rather do? Spend 400, let's just say $500. Would you guys rather spend $500 and get 44 leads, or $500 and get 9 leads? But truthfully, at the end of the day, although like these numbers show that it's only 9 here, like sometimes they get attributed also to homepage. We also get incoming calls. Yeah, so that's why I like to see it as a total rather than just individually, because although somebody might come through on a specific channel, maybe they saw you over here and then they went and Googled you and they came through over here. So like, for example, maybe somebody saw the Facebook ad and then they Googled Mesa 5-star cleaning. And then when they Googled us, all of a sudden the very, very top was Mesa 5-star cleaning, Google guaranteed, and they clicked on the freaking ad and they gave us a call, right? So it showed up as Google LSA, although what actually the first contact was maybe on Facebook, or maybe they saw the ad on a ton on Facebook, right? Because the ads continually going on Facebook, and then they finally had a need for a cleaning service, and like, oh yeah, what was that company I saw on Facebook? Mesa 5-star cleaners, and they Google it and they type it in, maybe they come on the homepage, right? So that's why it's important to track your leads as a whole, because I've proven this time and time again that people will see on one thing, but no, they actually will convert over here. So that being said, we had 74 leads last week, and we're averaging $12 a lead. So when I say 458, like, and I say we're spending $50 a lead, truthfully, after on our $1,000 that we spent, we actually only spending $12 a lead. Would you guys spend $12 to get a lead? Everybody should put their thumbs up. Yes, $12 a lead in most businesses, but especially in this business, is good. You'll take that all day long. Okay. So marketing going well. Converting. Can we convert? We'll see. Not so well, right? Last week, I still don't think this number is right, James. I'm pretty sure I looked at this. I thought it was like 350, but regardless, for right now, we'll call it 319. Made 319 calls last week. So out of those 319 calls that were made, actually no. So calls made is an outgoing. These are incoming calls. So this should actually. So this should. I thought this was changed last week, but I'm just going to do this. I'm going to update this as right. So outgoing calls made, and this is going to be incoming calls answered, and then incoming calls missed. So these are actually separate categories. So I made 319 calls, 12, and we had 12 incoming calls that were answered, and we had 19 incoming calls that were missed. So quote calls. Oh, and I changed some the terminology on this. So I used to call this discovery calls, and then after last week, I realized that I wanted that. First off, discovery calls. It didn't make sense to the prospect. It didn't make sense to the person who was booking the call. I was like, what is a name that actually makes sense for them that they want to get on this call? So I just started calling a free quote call, right? And so now I'm calling this quote calls. So subject to change, but as of right now, changes to a quote call. So quote call scheduled 9, quote calls showed 8, quote calls performed 27. Jose, is Jose on here?
Yes, sir.
What does this data mean? Because this is a question that you asked a couple weeks ago. Why is there 9 scheduled, 8 showed, but 27 performed?
Yeah, so the first one is the calls that were scheduled, that you scheduled to speak to the person, and then showed is the people that showed up on the call, and then performed was everything add up, including other people that were not on the schedule that you also called, right?
Exactly. Cool. Thank you. So what this is basically showing you guys is that out of the 9 calls that were scheduled, 8 showed up. So our show percentage is good, right? We can all agree that 8 out of 9 people showing up is a good thing. 27 calls performed means that 27 minus 8 means that there were 19 calls that I talked to people that were not scheduled. How does that happen? How do I talk to 19 other people without them being scheduled? Put in the chat. How do I talk to 19 more people that were not on the schedule? Yes. Yeah. Not only did I pick the phone up, but I also called people on it. Correct. Yes. All right. I'll tell you guys this because I think it's actually pretty funny. So most of you guys in here have cleaned before, correct? Most of you guys have cleaned. Katie, every time Katie cleans, she always talks about how it actually beats her hands up a lot. Right? Like her hands get really sore from cleaning. Anyone in here ever have felt your hands get beat up from cleaning? Yeah. So I was telling Katie, like, my hands are beat up from making phone calls. Like, I am not joking. Like, my hand, like, from like hitting the button and then like typing things in all the time, like using the computer, like my hands are swollen, they're sore from making so many phone calls. Like, I'm not joking around. So you think you got out of cleaning for your hands not to get beat up, and now you're gonna get back your hands beating up by calling people. So that's how I talked to 19 other people. Is I made 319 phone calls. Okay. And out of those 27 quote calls that were performed, 14 of them bought. Okay. And then Katie did 1 call, and her name was Precious, and Precious didn't buy. Okay. Finally, I have a better close percentage than Katie does. First week ever. It was actually funny. Just into my last advisor meeting, and for everybody who's in Decade in a Day or advisor, you guys can listen to my sales calls and Katie's sales calls as well that I'm doing with this new company. And Jacinta was like, I really like to hear Katie sell. Like, she's really good. I was like, yeah, she is. She's actually better than me. But I just have more time at the moment, and I'm more violent than Katie. So I will call 300 people. I will talk to 27 people, and I will convert half those people. And so Katie could do all that in a much shorter amount of time, and I presume most of you guys on here could probably do the same. So, out of those 14 people are, yeah, I'm not quite sure if this number is correct as well as 1874. But so this number is the quote calls projected versus how many calls here. Let me just do the math here. Get a general idea if it's close. 133. Yeah, so James, will you double check this number as well? It just seems low. And then conversion calls closed. So I had 4 calls, 3 of them closed, and it turned into $850 for conversion projected monthly revenue. So that's the sales side. So I say this every single week, like sales and marketing, they are, what do we call them? Maybe we call them siblings, right? They're like a sibling systems. Because if you have good marketing, but you can't convert, then it makes your marketing bad. If you have bad marketing, but you convert, then it can make your marketing good. And so ultimately, the key to this game is to be able to convert. If you can convert, marketing is less important, whether you're good or bad. But if you can convert people, that's the name of the game. But if you can't convert, it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. Like, no matter how good your cost per lead is, if you make zero money at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So I would prefer that this number be good. And sometimes it can be good just by the amount of sheer work you're willing to do and the sheer amount of times you're willing to talk to somebody, right? Cool. All right, client fulfillment. So last week, again, was a PR. We had 21 total claims. We have 8 reoccurring clients at the moment. We have 4 reoccurring clients at the moment. 11 of those 21 claims were new client claims. 3 were reoccurring. This is the highest number. We actually have reoccurring clients. Wild, cool to see. And then reoccurring claims, again, those like Airbnbs, we have 5 of those. So those have been super helpful. And this number was really cool. We had 5 Google reviews. Last week we actually had 0. This week we had 5. And that was exciting. And then we had 2 correction/discount cleans this week. So share a little bit on those as well. Cleaner acquisition. We spent $113 on Indeed. This number is not right as well. I don't know what's going on here, but we definitely have more than one website app. We definitely had a website applicant. Cleaner prospect calls. I did 11 calls last week. We had, out of those 11 prospect calls, I pushed 1 to an interview. 1 showed, 1 offered, 1 accepted. We also had 1 girl from the week before. Yeah, so her name is actually, I found out, not Michaela, it's Ellie. So I'll change this right here. And she was supposed to get onboarded, but it turned out to be a working interview because we actually had a last minute clean that we had to do. So it turned into a working interview rather than an onboarding. And she's actually onboarding this week along with our new hire, Shanice. And so they're both started training onboarding today and did infill training today. They're supposed to graduate today is Friday, and Katie's the one who's training both those girls. Okay, 5-star reviews, 26 on our goal to 50. Again, we had 5 last week, which was great to see. Our 4 cleaners, which include Katie. Katie had 9.5 JTH, Shayna had 19.5, Lindsay had 28.5, and then Jocelyn had 27.75. So it's nice to see that we had a couple cleaners who are touching almost 30 hours a week. And yeah, we had to hustle in order to make that happen. Actually, they both did cleans on Saturday and Sunday. So it was, they both wanted it, which was really cool. And that's how they're able to get to almost 28 hours in their second. I think this was Jocelyn's second week. Actually, this is Jocelyn's first full week. This was Lindsay's second full week as being a Sparkle Boss. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Total job ticket hours. Yep. So our revenue total hours worked is $73. Yeah. So that's good to see. That's a high number. So this is going to be our JTH divided by our total revenue, or weekly revenue. That's good. Correction cleans and discount cleans. So yeah, last week, Casey Cleary, she was a discounted clean. We just missed things. She was somebody who I did an a la carte clean with, and I just wasn't very clear on the instructions. And so she made a complaint, and I didn't really want to do a correction clean because it was like a $150 clean. And so I just said, hey, can I take off 10%, I think, of the clean? And she said she was like super happy. And then she ended up tipping the tech that 10%. So it literally just washed out. So anyway, as much I guess you could call it a correction clean, it turned out to be just fine. The one thing I'll say about anytime we do have a client complaint, I never blame the cleaners, and I never argue with the client. So I think everyone could probably learn from this to some degree. Is just actually taking ownership, and even when maybe you don't believe you did anything wrong, still saying that's my fault. Because if you're the salesperson, you're the one who's connecting the client to the cleaner. There's something that you missed. There's something that you didn't communicate. There's a question you didn't ask. There's something that you were oblivious to. And I truly believe that it is your fault. And it doesn't actually help the situation to blame the cleaner. It doesn't help the situation to argue with the client. So I have found this to be a great strategy. If your goal is for you to build relationships with your clients and your cleaners, that you take responsibility and say, my bad, my fault. If that is your goal, if your goal is to be right and for your ego to feel good, then point your finger around, boys and girls. It's somebody else's fault. So, my bad. My fault. I should have communicated better. Not the cleaner's fault. It was my bad. Me. That's my strategy. And then Edna was actually a correction clean that we had done, or a clean that we did a couple weeks ago. We just finally got her in for a correction clean. So the technician who was responsible is not even with us anymore. And so, yeah, we went back to her home, and like the home was actually really bad. The clean was atrocious, actually, which is one of the reasons that this tech is not with us anymore. But it wasn't the only reason. Just, yeah. No canceled reoccurring clients. No canceled reoccurring clients. And yeah, that correction clean, $15. I guess this would go in a correction clean. I guess what it would go under. I guess it would probably just go under discounts. I guess, huh? Oops. Yeah. So we had $15 discount. So yeah. So that was our week number 7. So again, it was one of our bigger growth weeks. In the beginning, it's really nice because you're getting PRs all the time, and I'm sure you guys have experienced that, where you guys like beginning, like it's fun. You're only going up, and then all of a sudden you lose your first client, and then you have your first week where you go down. You have your first where you're not making progress, and all of a sudden you start to doubt yourself. You start to like think the crazy thoughts of like, maybe I'm not very good anymore. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe the world hates me, right? Maybe I don't have the skills, whatever the negative self-talk is. And so it's coming, right? And so I think my belief now, or my thought process is like, I don't get too high and I don't get too low. Like my goal is honestly to stay pretty even keeled. And so even though like these numbers, if you look over the last 7 weeks, they're clearly the best numbers. I don't get excited. I don't get like, check this out, guys. Look at this. We got an amazing week. Doing so good. I'm just like, it's good. I love to see progress. And I also know that there's behind it, whether it's next week or the week after, the week after that, the week after that, the week after that, the week after that, eventually there's going to come a time where we're not going to have a PR, where we're not going to make progress. And you know what? I'm not going to get too down by it either. Because I just understand that I'm in this game for the long term, and there's going to be ups and downs. And the ups and downs are less important. But what's most important is my response to the ups and downs, my emotional stability in the ups and downs. So, um, yeah, hopefully that helps you guys as well as you guys are dealing with ups and downs right now. Like you guys aren't at the beginning of growing a business anymore, and so you guys are full fledged feeling the downs, and maybe you are feeling the ups as well. But I'm telling you, like the goal is to stay as neutral as possible because at the end of the day, the goal is just to continue to play the game and to be less like when you get less excited about outcomes and more just excited about like activity, then that's when you've won. Because like the things I like to see is less about the goals per se. And like I love to see progress on like how many calls were made. That's something we have control over. How many calls were performed. We have a little bit less control over that. But I love to see that some of the things are inputs. You know, our inputs can continue to rise. As long as our inputs continue to rise, there's a high probability that our outputs will also continue to rise. So that's what I continue to focus on is like how much more work can we do? And then eventually, me by myself can only do so much work. Like I could probably only make 300, 400 calls. But what if I hire somebody else to make those calls? Then all of a sudden we can still, as a business, make 3, 4, 500, 600, 700,000 calls. And that's really the goal. This is how do I create a business system, right? Not what Logan can do, what Kitty can do. But in the beginning, because we're growing this thing, like we are doing the do, we are learning the do, and then once we have learned the do, then we teach somebody the do, and that's how we actually will turn this thing into an asset as somebody else does the work, and we get to coach them and teach them and instill confidence and belief in them, and that's how we're able to continue to grow cleaning businesses. Because as you guys know, this is our second cleaning business. Our first one, the reason why we're able to do this is because we have people in charge of the first one who run that thing, who do the 300 calls, who talk to the 30 people, who close 15 to 20 people every single week, right? Who are hiring the cleaners. So like this business is assetable, right? You can create an asset out of this. It doesn't have to be a Jose show. It doesn't have to be a Janisa show, right? It doesn't have to be like you don't have to be part of the system. However, you will need to be part of the system for now, so then you can eventually create a process that you can hand off to somebody else. You create the process and system that you can teach somebody else, and you can empower somebody else to do it, not hand it off. I think hand it off is like let it go and then you never think about it, but that's not really the case. The case is like you teach somebody, and teaching is ongoing. It's like kids. Okay, now that you know your numbers, you're good, kid. You know, like no more learning for you. It's like, no, now that I know my numbers, now I'm actually going to learn how to count numbers, learn how to subtract numbers, and then eventually learn how to multiply numbers and divide numbers. And then you learn how to do all sorts of crazy things like that you need calculators for. And so like the process keeps evolving and going. The same thing happens when you teach somebody else how to clean. You teach somebody else how to do sales. You teach somebody else how to do recruiting. You teach somebody else how to do the things in your business that you once did. It's an ongoing process. It's not like I did it once, now I'm good. Bye. Right? You become a coach. You're constantly coaching. You're constantly teaching. You're constantly finding ways to give your people clarity, to help them see what you see. And hopefully you see, right? And most people, their problems are is that they don't see. And if you don't see, I promise you, your people don't see either, right?